just some words of wisdom for all of you who are celebrating these calls for impeachment. He hasn't committed any crimes. Sorry, he hasn't. He hasn't gone against the Constitution in any sort of a manner on these recent calls for impeachment. He didn't do it. That's a fact. Now, I understand you're easily led. You're led off a cliff, you're led to the slaughter, you're just listening to the person who says it loud and says it a lot. You're all fools. You're all ignorant fools. I'm sorry. The shit that, what's her name? The crazy old lady who had a Chinese spy. Her name is unimportant. She's a person from California, a politician from California. So, in the scope of things, beyond her having, for some reason, a national voice, while she is a representative or a senator, whatever the hell she is, she had a fucking spy for a driver for years. And nothing came of that. But what Trump did was not unconstitutional. In fact, Trump is the only one, as the executive, who should be dealing with foreign powers. Now, the Senate, and only the Senate, has to agree. However, this isn't a treaty. It's not a trade agreement. It's outside of the Senate's hands. So these calls for impeachment are unfounded. Not to mention, Trump's not the first one to do it. Trump's not the first one to say that someone is corrupt or someone's a puppet or someone is doing something illegal. I'm sorry, but for the last 3 fucking years, that's all I've heard about the president, is that he's corrupt, he's doing something illegal, he's well outside of his powers. But you see, he's not. And you're all worried about precedent. I'm sorry. The last president, the president before this one, number 44, who is now just Mr. Obama. He's not President Obama. He is a former president. He is Mr. He's back to being a private citizen. I'm sorry the rest of you forget that fact. But he set a lot of precedent. A lot of precedent. And the great majority of you hate it just because now the person you did not expect to become president, but thankfully is doing the best job out of anybody in the last election cycle, won. That's the only reason you're all up in arms. If you believe in faction, if you believe in the Democratic Party especially, you're a danger to the continued existence of our republic. You're worried about losing democracy. You've never had democracy. You haven't. We've been a representative democracy. That is not the same thing. Unfortunately, you've all been misled by the slaughterhouse, by politicians who are more worried about their power and continuing to get paid a shit ton of money for doing absolutely nothing every year as they defer all of their power to the executive branch. Every single federal administration bullshit, the FBI, the EPA, if it shortens into 3 letters or 4 letters or some bullshit, it's part of the executive branch. It's part of the president's domain. Has nothing to do with Congress. Congress cannot do anything about it. Now, they can pass laws, but they're not going to because they haven't done anything for the past 3 years. Hell, they didn't do anything for the past freaking 11 years. Because they had a president who would do it all for them. But these impeachment proceedings are insane. The simple fact that we wasted 3 years and an ungodly sum of money that could have been put to better things on a dossier that has been proven to be false. and has in fact been outed as a political hit job. We know where the money came from. It came from Trump's opponent in the last presidential election. But let's just forgive and forget. You're all faction puppets. The Democrats, the Republicans, if you believe in the two-party system, you don't actually believe in the things that founded this nation. Because nobody these days is going to compromise. Well, I'm sorry, not nobody. The Republicans try. But the Democrats are not going to compromise. They don't believe in the republic. They don't believe in representative democracy, and they sure as hell don't believe in actual democracy. If they did, actual people would have more say, but it's not how it goes. They're also not about compromise. They're all about control. That's despotism. But hey, maybe the latter half of my generation, because for some reason I'm a fucking millennial, don't ask me how. But they just like being told and handed and given, and they're not going to work for it, and they're not going to try. They're not going to try to understand, but they're just going to go with it because someone said it was the right choice. It's like climate change. We have 12 years left, right? 10 years, 11 years, 11 years, 11 years, blah, blah, blah. Whatever the fucking case, it's a lie. And would it be so bad if the human race went extinct? The planet would survive. You're all clamoring for a democracy you've never had, as we all lose our republic and the rights we are guaranteed. But by all means, continue this nonsense. Keep being ignorant. We'll put it nicely. Continue with your ignorance. But don't be surprised when this entire country falls to shit. It turns into a bloodbath between two warring factions where one side will say, well, you know, we really didn't want to do this, and the other side will be sitting there going, this has to be done if we're going to save our democracy, as they hand the nation over to a despot. Yeah, don't pay attention. Don't look into the French Revolution and say, wow, that's quite the parallel. No. No, don't do the smart thing. Keep following the people who do absolutely nothing for you. Keep believing that the politicians know what they're doing. Keep listening when they say, well, this is how the Constitution works, without actually looking into it. You make worthy fodder for the political machine that is ruining all of our lives. But by all means, keep it up. You guys are doing great.